First of all, next to me, we have Mathias, who possibly has a better surname than I do. My surname is Sunshine. And he is an artist and a designer whose work blurs the lines between architecture and contemporary art, and he's based in Paris and has created incredible installations for many institutions and galleries, including Design Miami, at the Salone del Mobile in Milan, and for Boucheron and many other brands. Next to hello.
Hello. Regis Mathieu.
You're not on my list.
It might be.
I'm so
sure?
sorry.
Check twice.
I'm so sorry. Will you introduce yourself? Because I don't have you're not on.
Hello, everybody.
Forgive me.
My name is Regis Mathieu, and I'm a chandelier specialist. I live in south of France, and I'm a chandelier passionate. In fact, I restore chandelier from historical buildings. I design modern chandelier. I duplicate chandelier. I have a collection of chandelier, museum of chandelier. I live under chandelier and with chandelier. South of France.
Marvelous. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
You're welcome.
And next to Mathieu.
Mathieu.
Sorry, excuse me, Monsieur Mathieu. There's Helen, and Helen Chislett is a very experienced design journalist as well, luxury market, and she's also the founder of London Connoisseur, which is a 3-year-old company which very cleverly forges relationships between a select group of artists and designers and makers who are in her amazing little black book. And puts them together with some clients who are interested in unique collectibles. Have I got it correct?
Beautifully explained.
Thank you. Next to Helen is Monique Stamp, and she's the UK director of the incredible rug makers Riviere, who are known for their exquisite handmade carpets, which are made in Nepal. And they offer both a collection that's contemporary and traditional, as well as an amazing bespoke service too. Next to Monique, we have Angel Monzon, who is the founder and creative director of the beautiful Vessel Gallery, which I know very well. It's a wonderful space in Notting Hill, and they are known for showing truly extraordinary contemporary art, glass, sculpture, and lighting too.
And decorative lighting.
And decorative lighting, there we go. And at the end is one of our hosts of the evening, which is Anna Agapova. Have I pronounced it correctly, I hope? And she is the creative director of Oleg Plot Architects and Design, based in Moscow. And she's also the co-creator of the brand new O&A luxury furniture design brand, which we are amongst here tonight, which sits along the main architectural practice. So our topic for the evening is emotions beyond interiors, and by that we are aiming to delve into how interior design is connected to well-being and how our environment, be it layout, lighting, colour, texture, might actually affect our health. So I really wanted to start by asking everybody on the panel if you're able to define what emotions in the context of creativity, specifically interiors, means to you. And I think maybe, Anna, could we start with you? Of course.
First of all, I would like to thank you for coming in our showroom, and thank you everybody. And today I would like to speak with our interpreter. This is Irina. I need to explain, it's a very important topic for me, and we need to speak real Russian language, because this is very deep for me and very deep topic. I think... Oh.
You can do it!
На самом деле, чувство самое важное в интерьере, потому что я в первую очередь должна прочувствовать чувство, то, как клиент ощущает себя в пространстве, то, как он живет. И эмоция – это есть чувство. И эмоция – это есть то, что мы всегда пытаемся понять, и то, что я пытаюсь всегда прочувствовать от клиента. И без этого интерьер не существует, без этого красота не существует.
Emotion is very important in interior, and I think emotion is feeling. And without any emotion, there is no feeling evoked from interiors. And for me, the emotion of my client is very important, and how to convey it in the interior design. That's what we are trying to do for our clients, to connect them with their emotions through the interior.
Thank you. And Angel, how about for you?
Well, as Beck explained, we are suppliers of art glass sculptures for projects for these wonderful artists and interior designers that we're surrounded by. So we're kind of in the middle a little bit. So we can we judge the project towards the end sometimes, because we get brought in at the end, and you can clearly see some interior designers, architects who have been involved with emotionally. But I guess that's everyone's wish from the beginning, architect, interior designers. But sometimes that gets held up by the client, because the client is sometimes just wants to get the job done to the right budget and on time, and there's no emotion in the project. Sometimes they buy things just to show off. They want brands, they want bling, and clearly in those projects you can see there's not very much emotion. So I think architects, designers start with the best intention. And the ones that have been allowed to proceed with that intention until the end of the project, the results are magnificent, and they're very different from the ones that have been held up by. There's always constraints, but sometimes by clients that take over, which happens quite often. Clients have their own connections; they want to strike the deal themselves rather than the designers, or they might buy it while they're on holiday and then just lump it onto the project, and it just basically doesn't work. And that's one of the projects sometimes I think it loses a bit of emotion. But there are some people that do this very, very well. I mean, like I love your project that you showed me in the forest outside. What's outside the Moscow? Outside Moscow, yeah. This beautifully balanced project where the art on the walls works with the rugs and with the textiles. Everything is just and emotional. But there's many factors that contribute to a success in emotion.
Yes. Monique,
the same. I think working for Riviere rugs, our rugs create emotional interiors by providing an amazing space. You can bring a lot of light, you can bring colour, you can bring vibrancy, and all those elements, as long as textures, can really sort of bounce off an interior design. And the actual working with someone like Anna on Oleg, when you look at the whole concept that they bring together for a client, they really are trying to bring together the emotion that they find deep within their client, the conversation, the dialogue, the listening to the client, to be able to bring in the function, the form, and also there's also looking back at history with a client, with culture and travel, bringing back nostalgia and memories. All those bring emotional elements to design.
So Helen, from a point of view in the middle as a writer and also a connector, tell me how you
completely. I mean, I think for me it's just that I'm thinking private homes here. I don't think it's all about what something looks like when you walk in. I think it's all to do with how spaces make you feel and how they connect to you on that level. So at its simplest, it might be feeling very comfortable, very welcomed, moving through spaces easily almost. And then it's that connection obviously to the objects within the home, and particularly things therefore that haven't necessarily just been chosen for you by somebody else, but that idea of really having things that are extremely personal and that means something to you. Possibly something very nostalgic, incidentally. I don't think it has to be new things. It can just be objects that awaken in you that sense of feeling home.
Difficult to say something after everybody. The thing to me, I'm just doing a chandelier. It's much more simple in the house, but I have the...
I think lighting is key. I think there's nothing just about it.
I have the mission of something. If you imagine that the chandelier during the period of the chandelier was a kind of show your power. We start to use chandelier, church, and the castle to show that they own the light and they live with the light. It's why Louis XIV was a roi soleil, king, sun king, that he owns the light. He can live out after than the sun set. You say
Yes,
set. It's why the chandelier was very important at this period as a symbol of power. Today, people use the chandelier for decoration, but the chandelier gives much more, and see why it's connected with emotion is because you don't need a chandelier. Absolutely, now, 21st century, you don't need any chandelier. You need lights everywhere, and the chandelier can come back just as a piece of pleasure. And at that time, it gives you emotion. And when my customer come and say, I need a lot of light in my living room and I want a chandelier, I say, okay, buy spots, buy bulbs, but not, chandelier is like jewelry. If you feel cold and you have earrings, there's nothing to do with that. And the chandelier is the same. And I try to educate all my customers to say, you will spend a lot of money in something that just would give you what we can call emotion, but I call it pleasure, normally. And I'm responsible of that, to ask them to use it only for emotion. And when I design a chandelier, I design a chandelier just for that, to reach a level of details, because imagine that it's something important. I will have the main part of the room. Most of the time I will be in the center of the room, and I will have the mission to work, to do a kind of jewelry for the day, much more than something to keep the light. I hope you understood that. And I have also the mission to create an ambience during the night, but not the ambience of the light. I'm not a lighting designer. I'm an object designer. I will give you an object, we will give its own light, and we'll have another life during the day than during the night. During the day, you can play with the sun, with the window, with the natural light, and during the night, you will play with its own light. I used to say that I design with 4 dimensions. The 2 dimensions of the design, the 3 dimensions of the volume, and the 4th dimension of the light. And with that, I try to give you much more than what you expect, because you don't need a chandelier. During the 21st century, everybody bought a chandelier.
You do, stop saying that.
Everybody, in fact, you need it for emotion. And because you are doing emotion, you are looking for emotion, you need that chandelier.
For me, is the most important object in interiors.
Because you want to reach this emotion. But it's not useful. It's when you want to. It's why you are coming to see an interior designers. Because you want much more than a comfortable sofa, a pair of curtains, because you want to not see your foreign neighbors. You want more, and you go to see an interior designer. And it's why we work together. The interior designer needs a chandelier, needs a piece of art to give more to the customer. To not give comfortable, to not give selling, but to give them this what you call emotion, I think. To give this little bit more. And the chandelier is exactly that. Today, I used to sell chandelier for people who have no electricity, just because they like the object. But I have to explain that the object is much more than a chandelier. It was a symbol of power when it was made, if it's a candle chandelier. Today it's a kind of art, but also a craftsman. Many things cross the chandelier, and the mission, that is sometimes difficult, to say that during the night, I will tell you something else. It's why when I choose a chandelier for customer, I have to ask them many questions. They feel I'm working for CIA. I need to know if you have dinner here, where is your sofa, what's the color of your curtains, the height of your ceiling, of course, but also do you have spots, do you like the color of light, what is the color of your spots, and so on, and so on, and so on. And at the end, I try to find the right piece, and at the end I have the most difficult question on my catalog with big like that, choose what you like. And I give them the chandelier, I manufacture the chandelier, but not to reach only that they have what they need, they have more. And the chandelier was done for that historically, to give much more. Imagine that I have huge chandelier, thousands of kilos of rock crystal, of precious stone, of bronze, of silver, only for settle, 9, 10 candles. Yeah. Means that is much more. It's very close to why are you using jewelry, what are you using, diamonds and things like that. I'm close to that. And most of the time, people are speaking about useful, and me, I speak about emotion. I say, no, I'm not useful. Stop. Me, I will give you only emotion.
Thank you so much.
Right.
So, Mathias, can we ask you?
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Je vais vous parler en français.
Good evening, I'm going to speak to you in French.
Moi, je me reconnais beaucoup dans la dimension historique de Mathieu. C'est que je viens des arts décoratifs, mais de la restauration des arts décoratifs français.
So I recognize a lot of what Mathieu is saying, and I recognize a lot of myself in what Mathieu is saying, because I come from decorative arts, and I particularly come from the area where where you're looking at restoration, art restoration.
Et j'aimerais dire, mon métier ne m'a pas formé, mais il m'a élevé dans le sens comme les parents et comme l'éducation parentale.
And in fact, my work kind of educated me, didn't train me, but it educated me like parents. They were all working from the age of 14, in fact. I was sort of parented.
Avec sa part de traumatisme.
Of course, there was a certain traumatism that you can get from your parents.
Donc je mange art décoratif, je vis art décoratif.
So I eat decorative arts, I live decorative arts. I mean, for me, it's my whole life.
Et dans mon process et ma démarche personnelle, en fait, je passe ma vie à rechercher ces histoires un peu... Pour un enfant de 14 ans qui a grandi là-dedans, il y a un truc de monde merveilleux et beaucoup d'émotions et de monde imaginaire.
And for somebody of 14 years old, I started working at 14 years old, there was a lot of emotion, there was a lot of imagination, and I try to sometimes get inspired by that imagination and that emotion that I had when I was 14.
Et donc aujourd'hui, je passe mon temps et ma vie à essayer de retrouver ces décors et ces sensations, ces décors et ce savoir-faire.
And so today I try to spend my time trying to relive, find again that kind of life, those feelings that I had at that time.
Wonderful, thank you so much. I'm curious to know again from everybody, as you all have interesting and quite different relationships with clients, be they commercial, maybe a private residential client, when at the starting point, when you are meeting to discuss a project, is there an explicit conversation about emotion? And if there is, can you explain that a little? Maybe it's an emotional reaction to art, which can be very individual, and then it's left to you to interpret as for the next stage. Maybe Helen, I could ask you to start with that.
Yeah, most of the people who are my clients are super prime sector interior designers and architects. And what they're really normally looking for is a kind of star piece, that kind of, to use the cliche, but the kind of the wow factor going in. So I guess, yes, in terms that they very much want people to see that thing, and the thing might be a very sculptural light, or it might be a very wonderful piece of furniture, or something like that, a surface even. So they want people to have excitement when they see it, and to discover something. I think discovery is often a very big part of the brief, really, because this is I guess the point with my business is that a lot of interior designers, if I'm really honest with you, are quite lazy. And no offence, I'm sure you're not. Said she quickly to the host. But
in London.
I know, yeah, in London. And a lot of them just go to the third floor of Harrods, and they pretty well think, right, we'll just tick everything off. And happily for me, therefore, they're not going to be my clients, because I'm trying to work with people always who do want to really try and challenge a bit. And to create, it's a collaboration between the artist and the interior designer. So it's about sort of pushing those boundaries and together coming up with something really wonderful. So when it works, it's brilliant to see, because I think everybody feels that they really have invested a lot of emotion in the piece, and that hopefully it will engender emotion for anybody experiencing it in turn.
Thank you. Maybe. Mathias,
Moi je me positionne plus comme artiste que comme designer, donc ça me donne la chance d'avoir souvent des cartes blanches et de ne pas avoir de cahier des charges par rapport à un client. C'est-à-dire qu'on m'appelle pour mon univers, et donc en fait que je décline et que j'ai assez peu au final de retour du client, de dosage.
Well, I position myself as an artist, and so therefore I'm quite lucky in that I don't have any specifications. People don't say to me, this is what we want, because they know me as an artist, and so therefore I have a kind of carte blanche. I have, I have full power to do what I want.
Thank you. Monsieur Mathieu.
May I want to explain it? Yeah, it's me. In fact, I fight a lot with my customer, but nicely.
Fight with them.
Yeah, and our designers, because most of the time they want to use 4 or 5 of my chandeliers. They want something classical with crystal. They want something with bronze, baroque. They want something modern. I do in rock crystal. They want that, you know very well. And I say there is much more, but please stop 2 minutes to understand. To have my own museum of chandelier. Just them to come and to understand that the history of the chandelier is very large, like des Art Deco. From, I don't know, 15th century, 14, 20, beginning of the chandelier with candle, up to now, there is so many different style, much more than style, design, people who create that as an artistic piece, history, period, countries, know-how. I want them to understand a little bit more what they will buy. And I fight with them, say, no, I don't want to give you 15 candles, I want to give you this emotion, I want to give you more. That's why I have this museum, it's why I have collect books about chandelier, and many things like that. And I like when the customer come in France, in south of France, in Provence, very far from everything, and spend one day with me and look at the chandelier. Also after that they understand that we need 6 months to manufacture something, and they understand that. And they will have at the end much more than a piece of something in their house, a piece of art, a piece of craftsmanship. Everybody give the name you want, but I want them to have more than that. And I fight with them to say, no, it's not only 15 candles and the crystal or bronze, it's not enough. I want to explain you why rock crystal, why there is rock crystal in chandelier. Nobody knows that. Why there is glass in chandelier, why there is full glass chandelier, why there is bronze, why there is silver bronze, why there is ball in chandelier, and things like that. Candle, electricity, to the LED. It's nice when the designer, the creator speak about what he done. For example, if you speak about this chandelier isolate, you will have much more than just a line of lights and crystal. You will have a lot of things, and have thousands of chandeliers. You cannot imagine how rich the history of chandelier is. When you spend time with me, after that people used to say, oh, I will never see a chandelier like before now. And I say, okay, I've done my work. Now you will pay for something that will give you much more than candles, lights, or things like that. It's why I try to explain to my customer, to my friend, and also, and I want to finish with this word, I share something. It's not money. I share something. I give you things that my passion, my collection, my know-how, everything I want to share with you. And when you will have the chandelier in your house, you will share with your friends.
Thank you. Monique, how about you?
I was about to say, like Helen, lots of our clients are interior designers and architects, like Hannah and Monique. And they're at the sort of top end of their business. And often when they come to see us, not always are they with clients, so we don't always have the direct contact with the clients. It was very, very important to speak to them, to understand the whole kind of feeling, the sense that they are trying to evoke for their client, having had that sort of dialogue and creation, their vision. So where we step in as rug makers, we try to create and bring in all those elements within a space to create a rug that is either going to be a statement, or quite often than not, it's much more of a quieter piece in the background that just anchors the room, that brings the space to life, and generally brings a sense of comfort and warmth. Clients always like to feel special, and I think when they walk on top of a silk rug under their bare feet, there's nothing like sort of that feeling of luxury. And if it's unique and they're able to choose their exact colours and choose the style and the scale, or you can create something completely bespoke with the vision of the designer, with maybe some inspiration from obviously the client's lifestyle and function and travel, and perhaps also some something that brings back from childhood memories, something that invokes a whole space, and that flow throughout the room and also throughout other rooms in the home. So that's where we sort of step in. It's all about creating a sense of warmth, I think.
Angel, is it similar for you? Because is your contact more with interior designers and architects rather than clients directly? Is it the same sort of thing where you're having emotional conversations?
Emotional conversations. Very emotional. All to do with money. Yes, our business model is 3/4 A&D, so it's become like that. And it's what I call the new retail, and we've been around for 15 years, and I've seen it changed. I've seen that we used to deal with collectors and direct clients, but now people at that level that have multiple homes, they want someone to hold their hand. There's a bit of insecurity there, I think. I think clients that have 4 or 5 homes, they just can't make their own decisions. And sometimes I meet those clients at the weekend with the family, and then you get a phone call on the Monday by the architect or the designer. So and so is looking at you this piece, and there's two reasons for that. One is to get a better price, and secondly because perhaps they do need that help, which is good. But we live in the same world as Helen, so and third floor Harrods is a little bit we're on a mission to kill it off as well. And I made that into personal sort of I give myself a mandate that everything we do has a history and a culture and a story to tell, and I want people, architects and designers, to buy studio art because I think we have to support studio artists. I don't like the nondescript designs that sometimes designers do, and it gets made over there, disengaged. In terms of glass, it gets made in Turkey, Slovenia, China, whatever, and repackaged and sold as something perhaps from their studio, which is not. There are these studio artists that I think we need to support, and that's very important. That's a bit of a personal mission that I have, and it's working.
I can feel it.
Yes, because they're paying over the odds sometimes. I mean, you have companies like very established Scandinavian, French and Italian brands that are making somewhere else and selling it as something else. There's a lot of that going on. The ultimate client doesn't know that, and I think we need to inform people of that.
So Anna, this feels like a very important subject for you, and you are the person that probably has direct contact with an awful lot of clients. So is the conversation about emotions is that a starting point with you? Of course.
Я сейчас подумала, что очень интересно развить тему, как эмоция растет вместе с клиентом во время проекта.
I was thinking about a development in the emotion during our work together with the client. How can we develop this or that feeling working together?
Когда клиенты к нам приходят, я пытаюсь, как уже сказала, прочувствовать их главную эмоцию, то, что хочет клиент, и как он представляет свой мир внутри того пространства, которое мы будем в будущем ему создавать.
When clients come to me, it's not about the rapport I'm thinking. I'm trying to feel my clients. I try to understand what they try to convey by this or that interior and how we can work together to develop into something beautiful.
Я могу сказать, что первая эмоция, она как неотесанный сталактит, как неотесанный бриллиант.
The first emotion or the first feeling when we meet for the first time with a client is like a rough stalactite or rough diamond, if you want.
И сам клиент приносит этот свой бриллиант к нам, и мы растем вместе с его эмоцией, пытаемся огранить этот прекрасный камень, и в самом конце, когда клиент входит в завершенное пространство, я пытаюсь ловить тот элемент счастья или тот элемент, иногда, может быть, даже разочарования в глазах клиента, потому что сам процесс был всегда невероятно интересен. Это создание что-то невероятно уникального и прекрасного для одного человека.
The clients bring their rough diamonds to us, and they work together. We work together to cut them beautifully, to cut them the way they want it to be. Maybe they don't know that they want it to be just like that. And the process for me is very important because it's our journey together. When the clients look at our thoughts or our developments in the project together, sometimes for me it's the glimpse of joy on their faces which matters the most. Or sometimes I see some kind of disappointment. But that's what we work together with and on, and the most important thing for us, to have that unique, beautiful object at the end of our process.
И иногда грустная эмоция, она зачастую перерождается в эмоцию счастья. Мы никогда не оставляем нашего клиента. Я всегда пытаюсь общаться потом в течение какого-то времени. И я понимаю, выбранные вещи, как люстры и предметы искусства, они переходят в интерьер с ощущением и нашего элементов эстетики, и клиент понимает, какие могут быть прекрасные вещи, которые он может не знать. И мы являемся проводником между миром искусства и клиентом, и показываем ему все грани прекрасного мира.
Sometimes we can turn sadness into happiness by bringing a beautiful object of art or an incredibly beautiful chandelier. So we try to show to our clients the way to their own happiness. And that's what is very important for me, to create something beautiful for the client through our aesthetics, to beautify their own world, their own interior, their own life, if you want.
So actually, to sort of come back a little bit, I think it's a subject that will be really pertinent to everyone on the panel. And Angel touched on it already, but we talk, as we talk about the emotional value of something that is bespoke, I think also maybe too that people are looking for, are really keen to know about traceable provenance as well. And I think maybe more and more people really require this. And do you think, in all of your respective fields, that this is a really important factor, that it would heighten the emotional experience of owning whatever objects or whatever collectible piece we're talking about? Does it offer an interior or a piece of furniture or a piece of art greater meaning? Angel, because just because you started this, about really understanding, traceable provenance, and does that really heighten the experience?
Does enhance the experience? Is that what you say?
Well, is it important? I mean, are you finding that
very important? I mean,
collectors are really.
I personally
don't
like. Yeah, I don't like selling, specifying or whatever an artwork without them listening to what it is. And that happens. Sometimes they just want to. It does the job. It is the right color, the right size, and the right. And it might still be £10,000-15,000, but it does the job. I don't like it. I still want to tell them the story because that's the reason this is with me. That piece has been entrusted to me, or I'm invested in it, or is with me. So I want to tell the story, and hopefully they'll listen. But I think it's important, and because you do get these questions, I'm paying this, will this value hold? Like, actually, I don't have a magic crystal ball. I mean, one or two artists, might be on a trajectory where you know that value is already increasing, but to be really honest, with contemporary art, no one knows. They might tell you the story, but no one knows. All I can tell you that everything I have probably becomes 10-15% more expensive year on year, purely because the materials and the electricity and the energy and the making costs are there. But can I tell you if it's going to increase so much? No. All I can say, like hand on heart, is like, I tell you, this man is positioned, he's ranked this way, he's been at it for so many years, he's in this museum, he's collectible, so and so. That's all I can do. The provenance, so you can give them that, but you can't give them a crystal ball and tell them. But it's very important, absolutely. This is what we moved away. We used to live in a world where we used to represent brands and design gift items. We moved away from that. We solely work with studio artists in many different mediums, but because it's so much easier to tell the story.
Yeah. And I imagine for chandeliers, that's a very important story to tell.
It's very, very, very important because I do many things. I feel I do only chandelier, but for the French mentality, who are very small sometimes, I do many things. I'm an antique dealer when I buy an antique chandelier and I sell an antique chandelier. I'm a designer when I have a white page and I design a new chandelier. I'm a restaurateur when I restore an antique chandelier who has its own story and come from a special place. I also duplicate chandelier. But when I duplicate a chandelier who also has its own story. And I have to explain you that. Because if you buy this Louis XV chandelier or this Louis XV chandelier, maybe this one I done it yesterday because it's unique and the first one was won by Marquis de Pompadour and it's unique. And this one, I bought it 20 years ago. It's a 17th or 18th century chandelier. And both have to explain you what is it. If I don't explain you what is it, I'm not able to sell honestly and doing my work honestly. And okay, sometimes I have customers say don't care. They don't care. They want this one for the bathroom, this one for the toilet, and they choose all the house in 20 minutes. And I'm feeling pretty sad because when somebody will ask you what is it, you will say what? You will say I bought it in the south of France, I don't know where. No, I want you to share my story, the story of the chandelier, the story of the owner of the chandelier, the story of the designer with your friends. I think emotion is something for you, but if it's not has to stop to you. It has to go to somebody else. Because when you will receive friends on your house, I will say under your chandelier, you will have to give them this emotion that you get by the culture of what is it, why is this period. For example, you can have a very, very, very modern chandelier, but in fact it was done in, 1720, and it's very modern. But you have to understand that it's 1720, and if you say 1720, and people say, wow, or Art Deco, I expect it was done yesterday. It means I have to explain that. There's sometimes I push. Say, I want to say, I have something to tell you. Okay, I will write you a story. You put on your file, keep somewhere, but it's very important.
It's true. Otherwise, you feel like you've been robbed out of something. Because we spend with the research, we read, we do studio visits, we work hard in putting together catalogs, and you write all this text, and it doesn't get. You want to tell the story. That's important.
So, Mathias, it's a slightly different situation for you as the artist, so that you are the starting point, but do you find that whether it is a direct collector, client, or perhaps it is an interior designer or architect who is working with you, is it important for you to convey the emotion of, to tell the narrative?
Pour moi, la provenance, elle est essentielle, parce qu'en fait, je fais tout à la main. Et tout est lié à mon passé de compagnon chez le monument historique. Donc en fait, je suis en permanence lié avec ce savoir-faire. Donc en fait, tout ce que je fais aujourd'hui est lié à mon passé de compagnon. Donc tout est... La provenance, elle est essentielle en fait. C'est ce qu'on achète, enfin, c'est ce passé. C'est cette évolution et cette construction, voire la déconstruction du travail d'apprenti et de restaurateur qui a évolué dans un travail de création. Donc c'est essentiel pour moi. Ça fait partie de la démarche.
As far as I'm concerned, provenance is absolutely essential because all my work is handmade. And in fact, I was a compagnon, and a compagnon in France is somebody who specifically was working for the equivalent of the National Trust. And so he was recognized as a rare craftsman who was specifically doing work for them. Often it could be gilding, or in fact one of his areas of expertise was painting skies on ceilings. And so therefore all his know-how has come from those years where he worked as a compagnon. And so for him, his development and then sometimes construction and deconstruction comes from his work as an apprentice.
Monique, I'm so interested because the rugs are made in Nepal.
Absolutely. So our rugs are handmade in Nepal using centuries-old methods of weaving. There is no element of machinery involved at all. So from the shearing of the wool to the spinning and the actual weaving on a loom, it takes about a week for our weavers to weave that much. So when clients come in, sometimes we have the end client who comes in and say, okay, so when can I have it? Can I have it next week? And have to just say, hang on a second. I need to educate you about how these rugs are made. And when we explain all the processes behind, they literally are in awe. And then they understand, wow, that's why it takes so long. Because they understand that, what we create, the quality, the workmanship, all the labour of love that's involved in making these rugs. they have something that can be passed on from generation after generation. So it's very much a quality product. The longevity of those rugs will probably outstand their lifetime, very much. So they're collectible pieces, they very much are. And I think for us, we try to educate not only the client, but sometimes interior designers, because interior designers and architects can't know everything about everything. And rugs are just one accessory. Apart from, there are so many accessories that go into each room. So there are so many different types of rug making. There's at this moment you've got hand tufting, you've got hand loom. There are so many different ones. And hand knotting, the Senna knot has been around for centuries. And the Persians, it's something that's been passed down from generation to generation. So it's very important to be able to educate the client, educate the designer. So they have a story. Each rug has its own story, and to be able to pass that on when their clients' friends come to the house and say, "Oh wow, what a lovely rug!" They can explain, "Yes, this was woven, by a team of 80 artisans. It's hand sheared, it's hand trimmed. The methods have been passed down from hundreds of years. This is very, very unique." It's well practiced.
So Anna, perhaps as the person that bridges between some of the makers and the clients, this is a topic of conversation.
Я на самом деле думаю, что у меня самая сложная работа.
I think that I'm doing the most difficult job in the world.
Я должна найти идеальный элемент в интерьере, идеальный продукт в интерьере, которым должна буду объяснить клиенту, что это тот предмет, который с вами будет жить всю жизнь.
For each interior, I should find that unique element, unique product, which outlive the client. The client will be living with that in their interior, but also it will outlive.
И очень сложно найти именно тот предмет, который не будет никогда стареть, который будет с каждым годом открываться и развиваться вместе с клиентом.
And the problem is, or the task is, the challenge is to find that unique product which is not dated and will never be dated at any stage, and the client will develop together with this unique object.
И самое сложное – сочетать все эти уникальные предметы вместе.
And the most difficult job is to combine these unique objects together in something, one single beautiful.
И я думаю, что я с этим очень хорошо справляюсь.
And I think I'm doing it very, very well.
So Helen, how about you? I feel like it's a thing for you. This.
Yeah, it definitely is a thing for me. And I think actually I just want to distinguish for a minute between narrative, which I think we're all agreed on, is super important, but also traceability, which is slightly different. And I think for me it's back to that thing, I'm not sure a home can feel completely happy if you have any doubt about how the things in it were sourced. Mm-hmm. And this is very idealistic, I know, and obviously I also recognise, money, etc., does obviously come into this uncomfortable situation, but I think traceability is going to increasingly be the thing. We've had it in food for a long time, but I think actually that the millennials coming up, that there's going to be no ducking this. They're going to want to know the full history of where something came from and how it was made and who was involved and all the rest of it. And I mean, obviously, if you come to me, you'll know it because I'm working with individual artisans and ateliers, so that's easy. But I actually think it's something we are going to see trickle down throughout the industry. I think people are increasingly uncomfortable at the ecological cost of the planet and the human cost and all the rest of it, and I think they're going to demand answers. And I think one other thing I'll just add in is I also think if you are involved in the creation of something very beautiful, it's commissioned for you, it is properly bespoke, there is much less chance it's going to end up in another landfill. And we've got too much stuff that just is thrown away, that throwaway culture, swap the sofa, swap the dining chairs, swap the lamps. It's not really good enough. So I think it's easy for us, we're in this super luxury place, but I really, really genuinely hope that over time some of these values start to trickle down throughout.
So on that very note, actually, you lead me perfectly to my next question, because thank you. Because actually what all of you do is very specialised and of a particular level of the market. Do you believe that you can find the same emotional worth of interiors, of art, of beautiful home objects for the home in something that is more mainstream and perhaps a bit more mass-produced, that is then, of course, more accessible to more people? Is that Angel?
No, yes, you can.
Yeah.
You can.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, maybe I didn't answer very well the question, but my chandeliers are not affordable for everybody because you need a space to put a chandelier and a hook to put a chandelier. And when you choose a chandelier, you say bye-bye to all the other choices that you can have. It's why I create my workshop on a different way. It's not in the center of Paris, it's far from everything. I've done a museum, there is a salon thé, there is a library, and everybody comes in our atelier to see the workers doing their work, and also gives them a lot of motivation because they have the eyes like that when they are looking them working, and that is very good for my team, and for me, for everybody. And I like to share with everybody those chandelier. Means it's not a question of price. It's a question that sometimes you do your choice. You choose this mirror, you choose this chandelier, and you close you close something. And me, I like to share with people that you can continue and visiting some other place and things like that. Means emotion are not matched with the price, with the value. Maybe some people have a kind of emotion with owning something expensive, I'm sure. But for me, emotion is not because you get something. It's because your eyes are ready to accept beauty that things around you give you. And we all work for that. We will all a little bit in interiors, in objects, in chandelier, in your art, give them this education of taking emotion about beauty they have around them. And that is free.
That's true. Mathias, how do you feel about this as an artist?
Je pense la même chose.
The same thing, okay. I understood that.
Non, je pense que chaque cas est unique et un objet peut expliquer une histoire, mais chaque cas est unique. Je pense que c'est pas. Moi, je vais défendre le fait qu'il soit fait à la main, qu'il y ait plus de chances que. Mais je pense que je pense que c'est l'idée qui prédomine aussi. C'est pas que la façon et la fabrication.
Et la valeur.
Oui, et la valeur.
Well, I think that each case is unique. Of course, I will defend the fact that it's a handmade object. That for me counts a lot. But of course, even an object that isn't necessarily handmade could also tell a story. So, yeah, I agreed with what Mr. Chandelier said.
Anna, how about you? How do you feel? Because obviously you're really specifying very high-end, maybe predominantly bespoke work. Are there occasions where you are not able to?
Без истории ничего не может родиться в виду. И всегда должна быть какая-то очень интересная, долгая и сложно рождаемая история. И тогда будет уникальный продукт.
Every object should have a story. And the story is not just about the story how this or that object is made, but the story comes from sources of the material. The stories could be of different kinds, so only with the story from different angle told by us in our work we can create a beautiful object.
Для нас очень было важно прочувствовать эту историю, и я поняла буквально неделю назад, что то, что мы сделали, создали вместе с Олегом, это лично наша история.
And the story also could be felt, and I realized during this week here that we, together with Oleg, created our story.
И для меня было очень важно донести миру то, что я чувствую при создании этих предметов. И это очень важный шаг, так как всегда мы создаем что-то прекрасное для клиента, для человека. И не всегда бывает это нечто наше.
For me, it's very important to convey my feelings through the objects. And in the end of the day, we work for clients. We have to be in tune with our feelings by offering them of this or that object. Okay, I feel the object when I create it, but also my feelings should resonate with my client's feelings.
И я очень мечтаю о том, что весь мир, не только на этой планете, прочувствовал эту эмоцию.
And I think that it's very important for me that the whole world feels what I feel, or at least can feel my emotions through the objects we create.
Thank you, Helen. Monique, how do you feel about this? Because there is a world of rugs that are not quite so beautifully made as yours.
I know. When you look at the market, with the mass market, where you can obviously buy rugs from Habitat or IKEA, compared to having a unique bespoke product made for a client, I would say that having a unique bespoke product made for a client would probably hold more emotion for sure. The connection of the design process behind that, and sort of getting involved with colour and texture and all that brought together with the workmanship, if they're educated on how it's made, would hold more emotional value. However, there is emotion in everything, and I think design is emotion, and emotion is design. It all correlates. So it can be, a mass manufactured product with less high value. But I think for each of us, we're all individuals, and we all emotion bounces off from all different objects, whether it's colour, whether it's texture, whether it's, like Anna said, the materials used in creating that. The story is in every single product and how it's made. So I think each and every person has their own sort of view on that emotion.
Angel, I'm curious to know how you feel, because as you said, when you opened Vessel Gallery 17, 18 years ago, 15, excuse me, you were representing some brands as well.
Yes,
and
that's
obviously
correct.
you've moved away from that.
Yes, and it's been a natural progression, but one of the main reasons were because the notion of retail has changed. Many of the brands that we were working with, which are very beautiful, don't want to make giving the names away, but beautiful Italian, French, Scandinavian brands that were very proud of representing and selling. Suddenly they were chasing the price points and they piled them high market, and they went off to subcontractor work in the world of glass to Slovenia, Turkey, China, and thereabouts, and then repackaging it and selling it as one of those Central European brands. And they were not really they were not being clear at the beginning, and we were questioning them. How can you suddenly make something for this price when you were not able before? And they became more lifestyle brands, and it wasn't for us. And some of these brands lived in two worlds. They were doing artistic work, very serious, and then they were chasing this market. And that hasn't worked sometimes, because when there's been turbulence, like a friend of mine people I know in one of the Scandinavian brands who hedged their bets on getting everything from Turkey, when they had an attempt coup, the whole collection got delayed 6 months, and the problems with currency, problems with China could also affect, or shipping lanes could be affected. But yeah, we live in a bubble. We work with beautiful, exquisite craftsmanship, and we have to pay for it, and everyone has to pay for it, and the artists deserve to be paid. And not everyone can afford it, I understand that, but I have a problem with the attitude, this throwaway culture sometimes. I think I've been half Swedish, I've studied in IKEA myself. I think even IKEA has compromised. Well, actually they're changing that, but for 20 years they were compromising their quality even. The things they made in the 70s were better than what they made in the 90s and 2000. Now they're trying to change a little bit. So, because throwaway culture, landfill, we have to really be a little bit observant to that. But it's an attitude, it's thinking, there's a generation who thinks they can have everything in one go. Set up home and have everything in one go. I don't have everything in one go still. My parents did not. So I think it's something about attitude and...
Helen, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of that mass production thing, but I can't afford the things that I'm selling.
Same here, no one can.
I always say that we live in Dante's circle of hell somewhere, where we kind of are surrounded by very beautiful things, but you must never ever own them, you know. But I'm used to that with journalism, of course, as well. But I do think that actually, and it's going to, I'm afraid, probably sound terribly cliche because I've probably written this, and so is Becky probably, but I also think it's true. I think there is always a level where you can come in and buy something that has proper narrative and legacy and a discovery about it. And whether you're doing that by trawling the sort of, you know, the craft fairs, or whether you're doing that going through the student art shows, I believe it is possible. And actually, to be honest, I mean, craft in the broadest sense offers some real opportunities, I think, to build up collections at relatively low cost. I mean, I think that, for instance, if you love baskets, then I would say find out about baskets, research baskets, find out who the makers are that are really interesting, and all, you know, I mean, you can go into any subject and become quite expert and get a lot of pleasure from that. I mean, that learning is all part of the pleasure, rather than just thinking, yeah, I'm in IKEA, I could buy a basket, which I think is very dull and won't necessarily give you so much, give you instant satisfaction, sure, but I don't think it will give that kind of lasting pleasure personally. So I think there is a way.
Or function, for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. So yes.
Thank you. How are we doing for time? Are we okay? Or maybe can I ask if anybody in the audience would like to ask our expert panel anything we have? Yes, please.
Just a question. My interest is in the design process and design thinking. And thank you very much for your insight. Pardon, je ne parle pas français. But this notion, it comes up with this idea of, because I'm interested in this. You create a space, deliberately or unconsciously, with your client, maybe an architect all the time for a living. And based on what you're talking about, the question is, how humble are you when it comes to educating your client?
Who is that to? Anybody? Anybody? Would anyone like to?
I'm incredibly humble, and I'm a really bad salesperson. I have to say, I can't sell. You know, I give a hand over to my staff. I know. I give away discounts. I give away everything. I like it. You have to be humble, not too, because I think I like to refer. We work in a family. My artists are a family, and so are my best clients. So we're a little bit of a family.
But you're the designers. You know better. You're the specialist. So
what's the designers? I'm not sure if they're humble.
Я думаю, что мы очень деликатны. И я очень деликатна в принятии решений по обучению клиента. В первую очередь надо услышать его, а потом предлагать свои корректировки.
I think the best approach is a subtle approach to clients' education. First of all, we should make any possible effort to find out as much as we can about clients, and then make it as if he makes these decisions themselves.
Very nice. Subtle suggestion. Very good. Would anybody else like to answer that?
No, lady first.
Well, all I was going to say is I'm not sure I am very humble about it, because I'm quite fierce about my artists, and I get very sort of lioness about them, and so I'm probably in danger of lecturing people madly and saying, no, this is really important, and it's very expensive, and you're just going to have to put up with it because it's not coming down. So they're a bit, okay. So I always actually want them to understand they are very fortunate. They're very, very fortunate to be in this position and to be able to choose beautiful work from all of us, I'm sure. But it's not that humble. It's interesting. Like I say, because I am trying to represent somebody else, I think I probably can get a bit fierce.
Oh yeah, like I would actually, I don't cut my fees. No, I cut my fees, but I would never cut the artist and the maker's fees. I feel really protective over them. I feel like it's not fair. These guys, they don't earn much money. I mean, by the time they make really elaborate sculptures or whatever it is, they spend days and days and weeks, and they cost them energy, real more expensive than
and the margins are tiny, really. I mean, interior designers, and I'm sure again this is not true here, but interior designers can get a bit greedy and they want to do their own client markup. And you know, one of my sayings probably is nobody should ever earn more than the artist. Why would that be right? You know, so yeah.
Power of persuasion, thank you.
Pour répondre à monsieur, moi,
Just to answer your question.
je pense qu'en fait dans la création par définition n'est faite que de doute.
I think creation by definition is just coming from doubt. You have doubt.
Donc ça aide énormément à l'humilité.
So that really does help you be humble, being so doubtful.
Thank you. Interesting question.
Just to finish.
Oh yes. Yeah.
I don't think I'm very humble. My friend will not say that first. It's that for me. But I'm very humble when I'm in front of the chandelier, because I restore chandeliers who are, I don't know, 500 years old, and I will spend with them, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. I work in Versailles and, for example, a museum, and in front of the product, I keep my place. I'm not stronger than the product. I have a small part of the life of the product. And when I manufacture or I design something, I try to keep this humility, you said this word? Humility in front of that, because I will design something and I expect in 500 years somebody will restore it, disassembling, still loving, still have emotion from here. In front of that, I'm very humble. In front of the customer, I try to choke and not be humble for them to give more energy, pretentious on their choice of chandelier.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to ask anything?
Hi. Well, I thank you for everybody's input. It's really, I mean, I've enjoyed it very much. And a lot of what you're saying resonates as well. I represent a furniture company in Italy, and it's been around for almost 70 years. And some of our craftsmen have worked with us for 50 plus years. So. But we've found that over the years, and at the moment we're struggling with also conveying our message of handmade and that historical reference to what we do and how proud we are not to do everything with our craftsmen to younger generations that are coming into money, that are buying property. So do you have any suggestions or anything that you can relate to how newer clients, maybe to you in interior design, younger clients, you know, that how we can kind of grab their attention again?
Who is that directed to? Anyone? Everybody?
Everybody, but
Okay.
also I think interior design is great. You know.
Anna, maybe you could start.
Завтра приедет к нам в шоурум наш молодой клиент. И я думаю, в первую очередь можно привлечь клиента тем самым своим внутренним миром или внутренним ощущением той работы, которую ты делаешь.
A new young client is going to visit our showroom tomorrow, and I think you can attract a young new client only by tuning into their world and emotionally attract him first.
И я помню историю, когда он к нам пришел, у него горели глаза, он очень хотел с нами работать, но у нас бывают такие моменты, когда очень большая загрузка в проектах, и нам приходится ставить в очередь клиента.
I remember the first time he visited us. I saw excitement in his eyes, and he was really very impatient. But sometimes we have a workload, and we have some clients who take priority because they came first.
И он просто пробился к нам, он хотел с нами работать, И мы невероятно благодарны ему за то, что он это сделал, потому что этот проект, который мы вместе совершили, он занял все лучшие премии в Лондоне. И он к нам пришел в первую очередь потому, что мы были откровенны с ним, откровенны в принятии решений, откровенны в создании того самого настоящего дома, который он хотел.
So he saw no barriers in front of him. There were no hurdles whatsoever. He was so fierce in getting what he wanted as soon as he wanted because he loved what we did. And we're grateful to him because as the result we created a beautiful project, a beautiful house with beautiful interiors. And that project was awarded highly in London. So, we created it together, and it's due to his passion, his vision, his understanding that we can create something of that caliber together.
Would anybody else like to add to that?
I just one thing I would say is that I'm thinking, you mentioned you're thinking young people with money, yes? They very often will buy art. And I think one other kind of lesson to try and impart, if you can, is that there's no point having lovely art and then actually very, very ordinary furniture. It doesn't really make sense. And if there's an art appreciation, I'll be honest, I don't know how you practically do this, but you almost have to draw them in, I think, through saying if you're going to have art, you need to create a setting that's appropriate for these beautiful pieces of art, and that means trying to avoid as much as possible, again, the IKEA word, etc., and having something like that handmade quality within a room is going to give it another layer of soul that is appropriate. But good luck.
You can always buy influence, and you can pay for marketing, press, PR. You can employ people to find your clients. We can't afford to do that. We do a little bit of that. I still think word of mouth still is what works best to keep growing a business. And investing in networking and events like this. How do we just speak to, because we are talking to the same audience.
That's why I'm here.
Word of mouth is still for us. In around 15 years, there's a really good collector client who brings someone. I don't do the hard sale. I don't do the hard sale. The first time you meet them, you're not going to sort of try to sell them. You make an introduction and then you stay in touch, and they become possibly a client a year or 2 years down the line. And this is how it goes.
I'm afraid I'm so sorry, but we're out of time, and I just wanted to thank all of you so much for your insights tonight. And I think the thing that really emerges from this talk is just how passionate about what you do all are, which is just, it's a breath of fresh air. So anyway, thank you all for sitting so quietly and nicely. Thank you.